Yeah, you're getting fucking banned, kid. You're banned. I knew to do with cheating.
guys and gals, me Mutahar, and yeah, things are getting pretty serious and things are getting a little bit dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. You know that whole fight about your privacy? I know, it's tiring, but let the Indian man explain to you exactly what's going on here. Now, all over the world, there exists a cabal of evil, elite people, basically the politicians, I guess, we elect, to come up with the most draconian laws that turn one of the most free parts of the internet into something that resembles modern-day Chinese, great firewalls, right? You know, a lot of places in the world, you really don't have the freedom to talk how you want without, some third party looking into every single message you send, scanning it, and having that being reported somewhere. It seems scary, right? You know, back in the day when I was in school, I read a book called 1984. Great book, by the way. Unfortunately, I hate the fact that nonfiction is now turning into a pretty grim reality. But I'm here to basically make it out to you. I'm basically here to explain what's going on. The fight isn't over yet. In fact, if anything, it's actually ramping up. And so, in order for you to understand what's going on, you have to be a little edumacated. And that's what we're doing over here. So, a few months ago, I talked about something known as chat control, right? Basically, the ability to look into your device and basically client-side scan everything you send, even on encrypted services, before it actually sent, right? So for instance, if you're typing something, your phone would be able to scan the actual contents, and who knows what could happen with that, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe a false flag could be tripped, maybe you could be put into an investigation. Basically, you are being watched. Now, I'm glad to say that encryption is safe today. Unfortunately, the warrantless scanning on your devices by a lot of these big tech companies, well, that just got strengthened. So for instance, this is a vote that happened in an emergency manner, right? Basically, this directive towards the e-privacy, you can see that 52% voted for and 46% said no. So you might be like, but Muta, isn't that a majority? Well, when about 112 people didn't vote, and you're basically casting this vote on effectively the last, I would say, day in session before everybody is kind of headed off on some vacation, when people aren't really there, and there's no way to remotely fire up your phone and cast your vote anyways, from my understanding, look, I'm not going to say that they kind of engineered this whole thing to go into their favor. But honestly, at this point, all these stars have kind of aligned in favor of people that want to basically rip apart your privacy. Now, had these people been there, I believe around 40 of them probably could have voted and have struck this down. So again, it's a shady situation to look at, but the reality of it is till 2028, if you're living in places like the EU, basically, a lot of these third-party companies are effectively allowed to just scan your messages, okay? Now, here's the dirty, okay? Your phone messages have been being scanned for years now, okay? Since like 2021, all right? This is a grim reality. Unfortunately, the thing about it is, and the guys over at Mulvad VPN kind of pretty much brought it up to effect, they said that for now, unfortunately, this will remain in effect. Some of the actual amendments could have been stopped, but a majority of the voting MEPs even wanted to do so. But by a margin of 314 to 276, the Parliament voted to reject the proposal through these amendments. Since this was an urgent procedure, 361 votes were actually required. And as a result, the majority lost today, and Chat Control 1 was passed. The urgent procedure was a dirty play, and I do tend to agree. I find it funny when people are always like, man, democracy's fucking cool. But is it really democratic if people vote no all the time, and then through basically butt-fucking insane procedures like this, you can end up passing through all the crap you want? I mean, it is the most dog water thing to see, right? It literally, I would say, spits against the face of a democratic system. People don't want it, but somehow you have all these rules and shitty plays to make stuff pass. I mean, are we really living in a fucking democracy at that point, dude? Like, are we really? But again, to give you an idea, they're right here. And now the real battle is actually Chat Control 2, which, like I said before, would require every provider to scan all forms of communication far more extensively than what has been upheld right now. Now, what I find funny about it is the framing in this entire manner, too. For instance, a lot of these news organizations are saying things like the EU guys, they're reinstating all these rules to allow that big tech company to tackle child pornography. Now, again, that's a very, very naughty word, and I hate the fact that they use this term. How about we just use the actual term, which is child, sexual abuse material, which is CSAM, right? Because again, that actually is more accurate. A child can't consent to anything like this, and anytime media is made, that child has been abused, right? So again, let's just stop using softer terminology. Let's just call a spade what it is, right? A spade is a spade. Unfortunately, an abused child is an abused kid, right? And obviously, none of us want this kind of stuff to happen. So of course, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's been other posts by, again, the EPP group. Again, all these politicos around the fucking region have basically kept throwing all these kids into the proverbial shield for this, right? Guys, think about the kids online. Don't you want to protect those kids? Don't you care about those kids? Well, let's just allow meritless, warrantless scanning of all of your messages. Because remember, if you're against this, you basically just want little Timmy to get abused on the internet. Now, I'm going to just state what I believe is the case, okay? I think every kid should be protected online. And I really think all the protections happen not by allowing companies or governments to scan every single message that we have. In some cases, also wanting to destroy the possible encryption that protects not just people in the government, but people in the military, people in law enforcement, people who are journalists, people that have escaped domestic abuse situations where they need encryption, they need fucking VPNs, they need their privacy, because in that situation, the domestic disturbance shit, you have like a crazy ex-girlfriend or a boyfriend hunting, or a wife or a husband hunting your ass down. So you're trying to find every way to be, one of the craziest things is ever since I kind of really started heavily talking about this, I have actually received emails from people that have used some of the things that I've shown to escape really shitty domestic, situations. And for that, they're thankful. That's one of the really eye-opening things, because really, you can kind of say, oh, journalists are, obviously it's a key thing for them. But when you hear, survivors of actual domestic abuse tell you that, hey, privacy and security are really important because I almost was killed by a significant other. That shit is like a wake-up call. If there's anything that kind of inspires me to fight for privacy and security, it's shit like that, okay? So again, all of this stuff is very important, but it seems like the government is totally keen on trying to push not just this through, but get sort of the grill ready for chat control 2 to possibly pass on through. So, for instance, going back to a vote like that, a lot of people that did actually vote no, there were a fair amount that, unfortunately, that attended, voted yes. So I would actually argue for people like Lee Anderson, who's in Finland, for instance, right? I want to ask this person specifically, would you be okay with all of your messages, all of your transmissions being viewable by your constituents, by people like me, okay? Imagine if I was living in the fucking EU, and unfortunately, the reason why I talk about the entire world, right? You might be like, well, you're a fucking Canadian, Muda. You're a guy that lives, in Canada, and you're a guy that goes to the United States, right? Why the fuck do you care? It's not that I care. Just think about it like this, right? This is an iPhone. This is an iPhone with USB-C, right? Why the fuck does an iPhone have this port anymore? Well, that was the one good thing the EU actually did. They mandated this port for all mobile devices. Now, Apple, being Apple, were like, shit, do we really want to go through the extra manufacturing line to make different iPhones with different ports? Fuck that. They just used the better cable. And thankfully, this is one of the good things the EU did. They're such a large economic zone that, unfortunately, when they pass things, good or bad, it does globally affect the rest of the fucking world to some extent, okay? Remember, if this shit passes in one part of the world, then Canadian governments were like, oh shit, maybe we should think of it. Maybe the American government, and they already are, by the way, too, okay? I've already covered enough people. Don't fucking sit in my comment section and go, we live in the freest country in the world, Muda. I got beer, guns, and freedom. Bitch, most of the fucking states in the US are voting to scan every single fucking message you have to. So don't get my ass on about freedom and beer and everything, okay? All right, guns are cool to take on a range, okay? Hey, beer's fun too, but freedom is being fucked everywhere in the world, all right? Let's just get our fucking pages straight here. This is a fight that involves all of us. You understand? Every motherfucker is involved here. So again, to go back to the chat control 1.0, to keep things sort of, you know, again, factually relevant over here too, people like Patrick Breyer, who's kind of been covering this stuff for quite a long time, has basically also summarized the situation as saying, listen, mass scanning is effectively permitted until 2028. And again, this is scanning by the actual big tech companies, not so much from, like, again, just your governments, but again, it might as well be interchangeable at this point, because whatever these tech companies detect in some capacity has to be auto-reported.
Oh, now I understand.
To, you know, again, law enforcement agencies. So again, there is actually a lot of stuff that I looked at for my own video over here, actually,
now you
like
do
documents
not
from the
understand.
European government, when they themselves kind of do talk about the fact that, again, when it comes to these meritless mass scannings, right? Again, you can read this for yourself. Acting in public interest against CSA in given reporting periods, right? So it does not allow for a comprehensive overview of the numbers of perpetrators committed, nor is it currently possible on the basis of the available data to establish a clear link between these convictions and the
Can we
reports
start?
submitted
Who's the
by
owner, bruh?
providers
Start the
and
game.
organizations acting in public
I'm the
interest.
owner.
So again,
Start
you
the
read it right
game.
here in the
No,
paragraphs. And I would
never
highly
start the
recommend,
game.
again,
I don't
you
know.
can go look this up for yourself.
Start the
Report
game.
of the commission. This is like,
Start
again,
the
you can just like copy
game.
this stuff for yourself, look it up. Brussels 27.
Start the game.
Read it all for yourself, okay? Again, I give you these documents because on my channel, I like to go for the facts and the reporting and
Start
the
the
actual real story,
game.
as opposed to, again,
Alright.
the clickbait and the argument and yelling on the internet. That's not what I'm here for. Now, of course, the other reality of it is, too, is that at the end of the day, there is also other conflicting information, right? Obviously, you have places like the Internet Watch Foundation, through Missing Kids as well. Again, these organizations are kind of lined up for meritless scanning of your systems. Again, multiple sides of the story. These people will tell you that, again, the vast majority of reports made online, especially through the NCMEC, may have actually been more tangible. And again, from Patrick Breyer, he was basically saying, look, according to most of their own figures, mass scanning of private chats accounted for only 36% of all those reports.
I'm the
majority actually just came from people posting publicly, and again, the cloud storage. So people would upload photos to Google Drive, and then all of a sudden that might trip a flag. Maybe it's real, maybe it isn't, but it goes to the cops regardless, right? So again, bottom line, here's the real issue with this story, right? Again, reading your messages is already wild, but again, ultimately at the end of the day, if you're using things like Instagram, Discord, Snapchat,
Start the
anything of this
game.
nature, you're already under the watched umbrella anyways. This has been happening to you regardless. And here's the thing about child protection, right? The more
Start
and
the
more you
game.
push for this kind of
Start the
the
game.
more and more real criminals
about
are just going to go to, again, platforms that will not be governed by this. There are a lot of platforms that, rightfully say, like Signal or, Telegram, even though Telegram by default doesn't actually, give you end-to-end encryption. But a lot of these platforms, like Signal, for instance, that do give you end-to-end encryption, are not going to comply by this. They've stated they're not going to do it, and those are the platforms that, look, for better or for worse, when you give people privacy, there's going to be good people that use it for positive reasons, like I told you about domestic abuse survivors, and then there's bad people, like, again, child predators, who are using it to hide behind a layer of security for their sick actions. And here's the thing with these kind of laws. It doesn't necessarily stop people, from using some of these services. It just exposes them to, again, a really draconian 1984 world. But the reality is, a lot of people that are actually harming children do in fact go to places like the dark web to share material. They do in fact use encrypted services to share messages and photos between each other. The reality of it is that a lot of these children that are on the internet are going to be, guided into places, that are off Discord, off social media, and using things like Signal to share messages back and forth. Look, I think the only fix for this, the only solve, is regardless of how you feel, I think the best way to deal with this is to parent your children. And again, I don't mean that in a condescending manner. Think of it like this, right? When you buy your kid a phone or a tablet and you give them that device and you're like, okay, you go on Roblox, right? So, you let them install this program that you think is a place only other children are sitting in, right? So this kid goes onto Roblox, and even in a future, right, where you think, okay, let's age verify everybody, or let's verify everyone by a facial scan and put them into certain age ranges. If you think child predators are not already finding a way to use artificial intelligence to generate images that help them get into certain age ranges, maybe even use real children themselves, or find a way to look young enough to trip any of these sensors into putting them into a verified pool of other, 16-year-olds, 15, 14, 13, 12, however age you want to go. If you think these predators aren't already figuring out these ways, then you're fucking crazy, okay? Child predators are literally predators for a reason. They predate, and unfortunately, in some cases, they can be good at what they do. So going back to it, look, a lot of parents buy their kids a tablet, they give it to them, and they're like, all right, you're on Roblox. You're playing with another kid. To them, when they give their kids access to like Roblox or a fucking game for kids, they think it's like going to a playground, right? It's like, okay, he's just playing with other children. But the reality of it is, when you go to a park in real life, what's there? Obviously, it's their parents, right? If your kid's in a sandbox playing on the swing sets, everything, you got a whole ring of parents around watching every single kid, right? Now, you know what's not going to show up when all those parents are there? A predator, right? Somebody, that's shady, coming up to kids and then basically getting them to go with them in their white van. If that person shows up, you've got all the parents over there who are watching their kids, all right? Maybe they're like on their phone, maybe they're reading the fucking paper, but they're at least there. They're watching their kids and all the other kids. That level of predation gets, intervened on pretty fucking quick. But if you're somebody on like Roblox or something, right, a parent might just go on autopilot and they won't know that, their kid is probably talking to somebody that's not a kid. And that person might convince their kid to access an off-site platform, something that's more end-to-end encrypted, and that kid could be groomed or, manipulated into sending CSAM images or, getting involved in something they really shouldn't be getting involved in, right? So again, the only way I feel to actually combat this meaningfully is not to mass scan and surveil people, it's to actually teach parents to parent and monitor their children, right? Like I said, look, my dad and mom kept the family computer in the desk, in the living room area, right? And it wasn't because they didn't trust me or my brother, it's because we were growing up in an internet era too, right? Even though it wasn't as, shiny and nice as what we have today, we grew up in the days of what? MSN Messenger, MIRC, a lot of these online chat rooms. And my parents, they always wanted to know who the fuck we were talking to on the internet. They wanted to know what game I was playing, who I was chatting with, because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're a parent, you want to be there and monitor your kid, right? It's not because they didn't trust us, because we were kids. We were young people. And my parents put an effort to make sure, anybody that I was talking to, somebody that I knew from school, somebody that, they had seen come over to our house, somebody whose parents that they knew, right? It was a community, right? That's how it worked. Unfortunately, I feel the only way to combat child predators and people that are, going after kids is to, unfortunately, really monitor what your kids are doing. Use the parental control situations and go beyond that. Look, kids are... I shouldn't really even have to say this, but when you have a kid, your life is basically, dictated to them. Your life is kind of forfeit at that point. You belong to your children. So really, what I'm saying over here is actually not even that crazy at the end of the day. Look, if monitoring your children is that much of a hassle, you probably shouldn't have had fucking kids to begin with. Simple as that, right? I mean, they're a huge responsibility. Again, rightfully so. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to things like chat control, it's past, 1.0 is here. It hasn't really necessarily introduced anything that, wasn't sort of there before. If only it kind of strengthened. The real battle is chat control too. And I think the future of all these government leaders and these elites pushing for ways for big tech companies and governments to now bypass the most basic protection, which is encryption, to scan your devices, is not only draconian, but it puts you at a real safety disadvantage, right? Imagine if any of these features were penetrated or hacked in the future that allowed people to scan messages before they were sent, basically bypassing encryption entirely. What risk does that put people that actually are using these tools to achieve good privacy, right? Look, I get it. There's bad people in the world and they do bad things, right? But at the end of the day, banning tools and throwing the baby out with the bathwater isn't the actual answer. The real answer, and as tough as it is that people need to put more effort into protecting their own children on the internet so that as a community, we can keep the most vulnerable safe. As opposed to, again, because here's the thing, even if you put in all the monitoring and whatnot, it's not going to stop a predator. The predators are just going to keep advancing to the next stage and the stage beyond that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to protect kids, you gotta be a fucking parent. At the end of the day, that's really the crux of the story right here. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna leave it where it's at. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.
In this world
Yo, fuck all y'all.
of overrated pleasure and underrated treasures, I'm glad there is you. I live to love, I'd love to live with you beside me. This world's so new, I'll muddle through with you to guide you. In this world where many, many played love, but hardly any stay in love, I'm glad there is you. More than ever, I'm glad there is you.
I got the time. Hey.
Oh, I know you niggas didn't see this coming. I mean, normally around this time I'd ask if you was ready. But I know there's no way you niggas was ready for what's about to happen.
One is for shooting and one is for fun. Niggas tripping off of 151. Black and miles burning under the sun. Black and brown kids, younger they dumb. Sack of town, where your mama know from. Gather around running all of your shit, but what did you get?
I say it's up, that mean it's stuck. Run out of bullets and run out of luck. One in the crib out with one in the truck. One in the tempo cause bloody ain't duck.
Step a foot up on the yard and get struck. Everyone I grew around was a thug. Thought
he was a shooter, thought he was tough. Found anybody cooling out in the shit.
14 county, 50 cal in the tuck. Fuck around and shoot the cavalry up. Bullet sneezing, we got allergies, we got alibis, we got calibers, categorized. FN bitch capitalized, better record.
I got sick and tired of letting bitches slide. So I'm in the whip, I got the stick inside. If I sniff a scent, smell a lie, smell a bitch, crack a smile, let it rip, let it ride. First time, second line, second time, bloodline. Third time, even I died, taking one of mine. I'm on Keller Road with a chopper from college, living on the cracker trying to colonize.
We've got out of this shit.
Go, 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 go. Go, 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 22, go, go, go.
I am not from Earth. Check what's pulled up in a saucer. I heard you fell in love with that bitch. Check what's fell in love with the chopper. Check what's some motherfucking monster. I came out the water like a Loch Ness. My niggas on the block with no options. They smoking niggas like hot grabber. I brought a new stick. Came with a new bitch. But the whole new kid. That's a new shit. Bitch, I got rich. Every nigga's cool. List. Gotta go with Chris. Gotta give a whip. I don't wanna do shit. No, I don't wanna do shit. Now hold up, shit. Don't get stagnant. Hood girls and models out of these lodges. You don't know my neck, bitch, I been hiding. I ain't internet, these niggas been lagging. Yeah, and I still keep it rapping. Spit fire like an Arya pilot. Still a nigga, bitch, I feel like getting loud. Me and my white friends gon' get blasted. Off the stick.
Alright, so check it out. You niggas over here talking about festivals.
Start this
I'm
shit.
thinking more like invasions. You gonna stop playing on Dreamville's top. Gangsta Brazil. Like niggas don't run this.
Pray for me, guys gotta play for me. Me and them are not standing adjacently. Thirsty for the clout, talking too brazenly. Bullet hit his mouth, at least he died tastefully. Good Lord has never forsaken me. In God I trust, so I get money faithfully, not just occasionally. Got to make cake every day like I work for a bakery. I know you pussy, the secret's not safe for me. You crazy, you think you gon' take from me. Not for extorting, treat pilots like orc, and I call up some niggas I know that's gon' spray for me. Speaking in cold case, they taping me. Let out the whole fucking clip, leave a vacancy. I'm out that 2 with the 6, so I'm basically repping more shooters than Rich Paul's agency. They get the clutching, you best get the ducking like 6, 7 niggas that's dunking for Oregon. Money so long if I start in the south and then spread the shit out and be touching like Portland. So it's no wonder I'm walking with caution. I know that guy got his grace for me, but I still treat a ride through the hood like I hike through the woods. Got a stick that I take with me.
Welcome to D-Day, suckers. Dreamville.
Stick on the shell, pick up the shell, lit up with L, niggas in hell. Stick on the shell, pick up the shell, lit up with L, niggas in hell. Stick on the shell, pick up the shell, lit up the niggas in hell. Stick on the shell, pick up the shell, lit up with L, niggas in hell.
Fall is here, hear the yell. Back to school, ring the bell. Brand new shoes, walking blues. Climb the fence, books and pens. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie Lee, through the park and by the tree. We will rest upon the ground and look at all the bugs we found. Safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound. Here we are, no one else. We walk to school all by ourselves. There's dirt on our uniforms from chasing all the ants and worms. We clean
Are we
up
starting,
and
or
now
what's
it's
it?
time to learn.
Start the fucking game, you fucking little nigger.
And now it's time to learn. Numbers, letters, learn to spell. Nouns and books and show and tell. Playtime, we
fucking
fuck 'em
nigger.
all. Back to class, through the hall. Teacher marks our head
Who you
against
call him a
the
nigger,
wall.
nigger?
Teacher marks our head
the game, you fucking nigger.
We don't notice any time pass. We don't notice anything. We sit side by side.
You better watch your mouth before I tie you up and force feed you fried chicken, boy.
You're a fucking retard. Shut the fuck up.
Says you.
I'll force feed you watermelon, boy.
Sounds like you're talking out of both chins. Better chill out.
Your mic's like shit, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Force feed you fried chicken, boy.
Shut up, bitch. Shut up. Who's your daddy?
Yeah, fuck you.
Bro,
fuck
turn your mic off. Oh my god.
Force feed you fried chicken and watermelon, nigga.
The N-word? I mean, how fat and racist are you?
Jeremy. Alright, bet. What is this color?
Start the game. Start the game.
Oh wait, people are telling him to start the game. Maybe he will. Oh, he's starting it. He's lagging really bad. Ah, he's not starting it.
I will do. I will. I will do timer for 3 hours.
I know. Oh.
And the world don't respect you and the culture don't accept you, but you think it's all love. And the girls gonna neglect you once your parody is done. Reputation can't protect you if you never had one. Jealousy, complex, emotional, complex, self-pity, complex, complex. The loudest one in the room, nigga, that's a complex. Let me put it back in proper context. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my neck. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my neck. You ain't gotta try so hard. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my neck. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my nigga. You ain't gotta try so hard.
Are we starting or is this the game?
To impress me. Ask where the money bags to impress me. Say you got the burner stash to impress me. It's all in your head, homie. Ask where the plug at to impress me. Ask where the judge get to impress me. Ask where it's at only upsets me. You sound like the feds on me. What do you got to offer? Tell me before we off here. Put you deep in the coffin. Been allergic to talking. Been aversion to bullshit and sell a dream in the auction. Tell me just who your boss is. Niggas be fugazi. Bitches be fugazi. This is for fugazi. Niggas and bitches who make habitual line babies. Bless them little hearts. You can never persuade me. You can never relate me to him, to her, or that, or them, or you. The truth. You love to bend in the back, in the bed, on the floor. That's your hoe. On the couch, in the mouth. I'll be out. Really don't. See loud rich niggas got low money, and loud broke niggas got no money. The irony behind it is so funny, and I seen it all this past year. Pass on some advice we feel. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my nigga. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my nigga. You ain't gotta try so hard. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my nigga. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my nigga. You ain't gotta try so hard.
La da 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 da. I'm gonna bury you in the ground. La da 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 da. I'm gonna bury you with my sound. I'm gonna drink the red from your pretty pink face. I'm gonna.
Marceline, that's too distasteful.
Oh, you don't like that? Or do you just not like me? Sorry, I don't treat you like a goddess. Is that what you want me to do? Sorry, I don't treat you like you're perfect, like all your little loyal subjects do. Sorry, I'm not made of sugar, and I'm not sweet enough for you. Is that why you always avoid me? That must be such an inconvenience to you. Well, I'm just your problem. It's like I'm not even a person, am I? I'm just your problem. Well, I shouldn't have to justify what I do. I shouldn't have to prove anything to you. I'm sorry that I exist. I forget what landed me on your blacklist, but I shouldn't have to be the one that makes up with you. So why do I want to? Why do I want to bury you in the ground and drink the blood from your